This is Channel 4, KNBC, Los Angeles.
This is an NBC News Special Report. Here is NBC News correspondent John Chancellor.
Good evening. President Reagan is in good condition tonight in a Washington hospital after several hours of emergency surgery. His press secretary, James Brady, is in extremely serious condition with brain damage. A Secret Service agent who was also shot is doing well, while a District of Columbia policeman is in serious condition with bullet wounds in the shoulder and the neck. And a young man accused of firing the shots was arraigned this evening. All the result of a tragic few seconds this afternoon outside the Washington Hilton Hotel, which we see in slow motion, when the assassins started firing at almost point-blank range. That's the sound of the first shot. You see a Secret Service man turning. He was shot. The president being thrown into his car. On the ground, James Brady, the press secretary, and under that's Mr. Brady there now, and under that other pile, the assassin. The surgery to remove the bullet from President Reagan's left lung was described as relatively simple, made easier because the president is in such good physical shape. He walked into the hospital, never went into shock, joked with the doctors, and in the words of a hospital spokesman, sailed through it. Chris Wallace is outside George Washington University Hospital now, and here is his latest report. Chris?
John, the president is now resting in his room at the hospital, and Mrs. Reagan has gone back to the White House. All indications are that the president's medical situation is now under control. As you reported, Mr. Reagan underwent 2 hours of surgery this afternoon. Afterwards, medical officials here at the hospital said that the prognosis for his full recovery is, quote, excellent. But the word is not nearly so good on Presidential Press Secretary James Brady. As of 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this evening, Brady was still in surgery, his condition still critical. Doctors say that a bullet went into his forehead, passed through his brain, and caused extensive damage. Still, all reports on the president's condition are very encouraging. Dr. Dennis O'Leary, who is the dean for clinical affairs here at the hospital, said that by the time the anesthesia wears off tomorrow morning, that Mr. Reagan should be fully able to conduct his duties as president. Earlier this evening, Dr. O'Leary described the president's wound and the operation. Here now is an excerpt from that briefing.
It was a single bullet wound that entered slightly underneath the left armpit. It traversed about 3 inches of the chest wall and then ricocheted off the 7th rib into the left lower lobe of the lung and moved about 3 inches into the lung substance itself. The operative incision is about 6 inches in width, relatively simple procedure. The bullet was removed and then the incision was closed. And as I say, he is stable and in good condition.
Do you expect him to be back to normal routine within, say, 2 months?
Depends on totally normal routine. I would guess probably a couple of months after his hospitalization, so maybe 2.5 to 3 months might be a good guess, but it is a guess.
Doctors here continue to marvel at how well President Reagan has come through this experience. Dr. O'Leary said that it fell just short of being medically extraordinary. The president walked into the hospital on his own power. He never lost consciousness and apparently joked as he was being wheeled out of surgery that I'd rather be in Philadelphia, W.C. Field's old joke. One longtime Reagan aide said later, he is a tough old man. Chris Wallace, NBC News at the George Washington Medical Center.
More information is turning up tonight about John W. Hinckley, Jr., the man accused of firing the shots. He was arraigned in court in Washington, D.C. tonight. There is no evidence that there was anyone else in conspiracy with Hinckley, it all appears as though he was acting alone. His family in Denver said Hinckley has recently been under the care of a psychiatrist, and the FBI says Hinckley was arrested last year in Nashville during an appearance by President Carter, and that he was carrying 3 handguns at the time.
What we have done with the pictures from this afternoon is to assemble them first at regular speed, then at slow motion, and finally in so-called frozen frames. Looking at the pictures with me this evening is NBC News cameraman Shelley Fieldman, who was covering the president's departure from the hotel this afternoon. Shelley, let me ask you first, is it customary for TV crews to be on duty and taking movies of such an ordinary thing as just a president coming out of a hotel?
Yes, it is, Roger.
Why? I don't understand why.
Well, I guess it's called protection. We have to be there in case the president, something happens like today to the president, or in case the president has a little statement. Somebody might throw a question at him, and he might come up with some good answer. Or, once again, as today is approved, we're there for protection, as we do in the motorcades.
So you had a film crew, a tape crew inside the hotel covering the speech?
Yes.
You weren't inside?
I stayed outside. I got the arrival, and then I went inside and made some short cutaways, quick shots.
And then you came out and were waiting for his...
waiting outside for his departure.
Okay.
Which is usually a pretty simple...
You just take film of him getting into the car and then watch him drive?
Take him to the car, and the car goes
So
outside.
here's the film. Let's look at it. This is the beginning of it. Just... There's that sudden burst of six pops.
Right. It just came out real quick, very quick. And about the second pop, I reacted by turning to my right, where the wall was, where the suspect was.
Is this your camera doing this?
This is my camera doing this.
And that's a videotape camera?
Videotape camera. There was some spectators standing behind us who really didn't belong there, and they jumped in and jumped on top of the suspect.
That's Rick Ahern.
He was yelling for a handkerchief at that time to stem the flow of blood.
There's the Secret Service agent.
Yes.
Terrence McCarthy. Do you know him?
No, I've seen him on some of the details, but I don't know him.
And this is
Mr. Brady.
Jim Brady, obviously seriously wounded there.
They were asking for a handkerchief.
Yeah.
I was holding my handkerchief out as I was shooting.
Did the Secret Service try to, and this is the police officer?
Well, the Secret Service didn't try to push us back till...
That's an agent there. That's an agent, isn't it?
That's an agent with the Uzi machine gun.
With the what?
Uzi.
Uzi, And this is what's happening now.
Now they got the suspect and they're dragging him off to the police squad car. They're going to put him in the car.
And so they can't get in that car, so they have to try another car.
They're trying another car.
And there must be, what, half a dozen agents and lawmen all over
agents, FBI agents, Secret Service, and plainclothes police.
Did you get a better look at him with your own eyes than you did with your camera?
As I turned real quick, I had maybe a fraction of a second to see him.
Okay, now here's the slow motion.
Okay, now I'm going to get ready to turn, and on this fraction of a second as I turn, you can see the gun, and that's when I got a quick look at the back of his head. He had long hair, dusty brown hair.
And there he's being tackled.
And then the man in the yellow slicker is a guest at the hotel, probably one of the union people that the president was speaking to.
And now here we're going to do a series of stills, of frozen frames. This is the opening sequence. The president in the center rear is waving across the street.
Right.
There's the first shot. There's Mike Deaver in the foreground hunching the shoulders.
Right. And this was all very, very quick. I mean,
but 8 or 9 seconds.
Maybe even less than that.
Less than that. They said 6 shots in 2 seconds. There's the president, obviously, the look of apprehension, pain, whatever.
I saw when as I was turning out of my left eye, which wasn't in the viewfinder, I could see them pushing the president, and they're pushing him into the car, and I could have sworn he hit his head on the car as they were pushing him into the car.
And there's the policeman's, the circle indicates that's the handgun, isn't it?
And he was holding it with 2 hands, rapid fire.
4 shots out of 6 landed, huh? And there's the face again that you saw.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Shelley.
Okay.
What we've seen today is, in some ways, fascinating history. A 70-year-old president responding very strongly to a very serious operation, as we've just seen described. I want to thank our correspondents who worked very hard today on a story nobody wanted to cover. And it's happened again, another attempt on the life of a president, which will produce more analyses of what's wrong with the American soul. There is probably not much wrong with the American soul, but these incidents seem to keep happening, and that is a real puzzle and a tragic puzzle. We'll get the next medical bulletin on the president tomorrow morning, and the Today program will be covering that. For this evening, there really is nothing more to report. So we will sign off and say good night for NBC News.
This has been an NBC News Special Report. This is the NBC Television Network.